All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Libor here, Senior Product Designer for the Integrations Group. And it's been a while since I've shared what's happening in our group. So I'll start with a little quick update here. So first of all, our integrations group is no longer under the ecosystem stage. It's now under manage. And so some of you may have known that. I was surprised by that when I got back from my parental leave. It's kind of good. And secondly, our group's direction is shifting to be more platform focused. And so our group's PM Grant made an excellent video about this already, about this shift. And he includes a lot of different metrics that support the rationale and the reasoning behind this shift. So I encourage you all to watch it if your team's thinking about integrating with any other third-party services. I think the video's his is internal. So it's linked right here. And so for today, I just want to talk about this shift to an integration platform and more what it means from a design standpoint. So why the shift? So historically, the integrations group has operated as like a streamlined team, being the creators of the majority of integrations. So our group's focus has, been to, build integrations and add user value as quickly and independently as possible without requiring us to hand it off to other teams. But in reality, we spent a lot more effort on bug fixing, security, and maintenance, rather than delivering on newer features. So this approach hasn't been scaling well. And plus, we found that there's a greater opportunity for us to support GitLab product teams, partners, contributors, and customers by focusing our efforts on providing, more self-service tools for building integrations. So as a platform team, we'll shift our focus to more internal services that other streamlined teams can use. Let's see. Yeah, we don't want basically our group to become a bottleneck, and we also want to shift from being less reactive to more proactive. So what are we doing differently today? Grant, our PM, and I have these ongoing discussions about this topic during our weekly one-on-ones. And during milestone planning, the goal is to kind of schedule at least one piece of work that supports this shift. So we're consistently working towards this effort. And so I see this effort being loosely broken down into these three following themes, which is focus. And so focus on existing commonly used integrations, empowering others, and making it easy for internal and external developers to contribute and to standardize. So we want to do less custom work and more standardization. And I'll go through each one of these in a little bit more detail and show some examples. So to focus, that generally means saying no to things. So we'll be saying we're going to stop working on any new integrations and instead prioritize improving our existing integrations and prioritizing the work around our APIs and webhooks. We also want to make it easier to discover our integrations. So that's a little bit of a challenge today through making a searchable catalog and dedicated integration landing pages. So I have one example here of a integration landing page that we recently launched for the GitLab for Slack application. So we're planning on doing the same for other integrations and ideally having this process automated. So if, for example, if a partner wanted to come along and create a new integration, they could automatically have this kind of a landing page created. But that's further down the line, not there yet. Let's see. So next, we want to empower others. So we want to make it easier for internal and external developers to contribute and manage their own integrations. So we're not the bottleneck having to do that. So our team should try to become, again, domain experts in the different product stages that we have currently at GitLab. And So instead, we want to provide those tools and support others so they could do that on their end. And so in order to do that, we really need to have better sample integrations and offer more code samples and show different demos of how that's done and how to get started. So we do have some integration examples today that I found. They all kind of link to different issues, and some of them are 2 years old or older, so it's hard to tell, first of all, if they're up to date. The structure of the different issues is inconsistent, and the format is inconsistent, so it makes it a little bit harder to follow. So we could improve our efforts there, or should improve our efforts there. And let's see, going back here, and we also need to continue our ongoing efforts to just keep our documentation clear and make sure the documentation is up to date. Next, we want to standardize. We basically don't want to do custom work and want to move faster. So the same way we use our pajamas, our design system today, to help us move fast and reduce the need for reinventing the wheel every time. We want to be working on, so we'll be working towards that, and we also want to work on standardizing different interaction patterns and extending upon our existing product configuration principles. Next, integration categorization. So we want to start categorizing our integrations better. So for example, you should be able to quickly go to our integrations catalog and search for, for example, all issue tracking integrations or chat-based integrations. So we have some of that happening more underneath the hood of how we define the different classes, more in the code, but not so much on the front end and the user-facing categories. So and then next, which is this integration static DSL, is an exciting new effort. I have an issue. We have an issue for that here. Let's see. And this is really interesting because we have an integration guide today, which is the beginning of this doc here. But the developer experience just needs more refining here. So even though we have this guide, GitLab still ends up having to guide a lot of the development. And there's basically, to write an integration today, there's a lot of different things that need to be written and a lot of different settings that are similar and in multiple different places that need to be kept in sync. So this static DSL, SL should solve this problem. My understanding is it's kind of similar to writing a single configuration YAML file that instead of having code and configuration in different places of the application. Next, I'm going to go through a few examples focusing more around the need for establishing patterns around our integrations. So currently we're working with the Respond group on adding an incident management workflow to the GitLab for Slack application. And here's the issue for that. And let's see. So currently it requires a lot of effort from both teams to understand the technical constraints. And this is just for being able to add this trigger down here. Let's see. For incident management. Here's another example of what this integration would do here. And so ideally, we would have a certain set of established patterns here to be able to add new triggers to our integrations to be able to extend them. And also would be nice if another chat provider then comes along and that decides to build a chat integration with GitLab, they should automatically have access to that new trigger. Sorry, let me go back here. So ideally, there's some set of patterns that we establish that make it easy to extend upon, these triggers here. Let's see. Next example here. So last year, the integrations group worked with the Threat Insights group on adding the ability to create a Jira issue from a vulnerability, which we leveraged the GitLab, the Jira integration for, which I have here. Oops, made it too small. And this was focusing on extending the Jira integration and adding this section here. So at the time, this required both teams to create spike issues to understand how this would work and understanding just all the technical constraints. So again, having some sort of generic pattern for how to extend extend the integration for issue tracker category would save us a lot of time. And next here, last example I have is around just establishing some guiding principles. So we have a set of those right now, which are really great. And I think we just need to extend upon these in certain areas. So for example, let's see right here. So for example, so imagine that you're a project maintainer and you have, 3 different integrations set up for your project, and one of them being the GitLab for Slack app. So imagine that you now want to change some settings for the GitLab Slack app. So imagine you have both set up. So where do you go to change that? Do you go to your GitLab app to find those settings? Do you go to GitLab, the project settings? And then if you start thinking about that, so, okay, so is this consistent with where this would be with the other integrations? So we need to establish some kind of guiding principles, even just around where these settings should live. And for now, the thought is for at least in this case, for the GitLab for Slack, we want to establish that all the settings are primarily first in GitLab, and then we could extend those out to the other clients. So that's one example of, we're having some guiding principles here will help in the long term. That's all I have for now for this showcase. Thank you all for listening, and let me know if you have any questions.
I just started adding a question. I haven't finished, but I was curious if the team has started discussing like a central location for all of the guidance. One example is we have the GitLab developer portal that has like APIs. I think we have webhooks on there, and then maybe native integrations or something like that. So is that going to be included as part of this effort, or are we thinking about creating something else?
Yeah, good question, Tori. This is still kind of up in the air a little bit. This is some things we're still discussing with Grant. Definitely the developer portal is probably a good place to start putting some of these things. So we'll see. I know we have multiple guides too, I think. So then being able to consolidate some of these would be helpful. I think we have like this page as well, integrate with GitLab, and then trying to figure out how this all ties together would definitely be one of the efforts that we need to figure out.
Awesome, thanks. Any other questions or thoughts from anyone? We have about a minute left. Cool. Well, if not, we'll end right on time. Thanks, Libor.
Yeah, thank you all.